Like, there is another option. There is always another option. Always another option, right? And that's part of when I'm on this mission to help people realize they can get over that. And I do that by helping people connect with their resourcefulness and their creativity and their ability to be innovative and it's, me taking somebody that's like, the only thing I know is that I don't like where I'm at right now. I don't like this job. I'm not happy with this or the other thing, or the way that my business has been running is not sustainable for me. Like, I can't continue to grow from this place. It's become a burden, right? And there's these different ways. There's sometimes you have to release and let it go. And sometimes you have to shift around the way you're looking at it, shift that perspective to find those resources to get to where you want to go.
Join me, 'cause I'm seeking sunshine, 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 I'm seeking sunshine.
Welcome to Seeking Sunshine, Do What Lights You Up, a podcast for passionate, creative moms who are ready to live their best life and be their full, lit-up selves while being amazing moms, because it's possible to be both. It turns out that you don't have to lose yourself in motherhood, and I'm here to show you how. This is Seeking Sunshine 2.0 because we are no longer focusing on the problems, but on the solutions. It's your turn to shine. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast, and happy Thanksgiving. I hope that you have the most beautiful plans this week with family and celebrating this week where we focus so much on gratitude and appreciating the beauty that is around us and how much that we've accomplished this year. I feel like this year, especially for me, has been filled with so much growth and so much accomplishment. And even though I have so many goals and plans and desires and, places I want to go, I've come so far this year. So I hope that as you celebrate this week, that you're looking back on your year and really loving yourself and how far you've come and how much that you've done. Because you deserve to appreciate yourself, and you can't keep going until you realize how amazing you are and how much you've already done. It's so, so important. And apologies because it is Thanksgiving break officially, and my son is yelling in the background. So something that has been important to me is stepping into the mess and just letting all of this be messy. And along those lines, and along the lines of Thanksgiving, part of Thanksgiving week for most of us is Black Friday. And I have such an amazing, big, huge announcement to share with you guys. I am launching something pretty freaking special for Black Friday. It is called Podcast Like a Mother. And what that means to me is doing it messy. It means stepping in to the glorious, chaotic disaster that it is to be a mom, because kids don't, do everything that you want them to do. And it's, I don't know, maybe your kids just behave all the time, but mine certainly do not. And it's chaos around here quite frequently. So Podcast Like a Mother is my podcasting course for you. I'm going to teach you how to podcast. I'm going to show you how I've done all of this. And what that means is, well, first of all, I guess I should tell you that the super exciting news that my podcast is actually officially in the top 5% of all podcasts, which is blowing my mind and super amazing. So thank you all. It means, like, when I say it means the world to me that you are here, that, like, I really, really mean it. Like, this has felt like a hamster wheel, and at the same time, it's also my favorite thing to do every week. And so that's what I want to teach you. I want to show you how this thing called podcasting is a tool. It's a tool for growth. It's a tool to leave a legacy for your kids. And it doesn't need to be another chore on your list. It gets to be so much fun, and it gets to be so easy, and it gets to be your favorite part of your week. I adore connecting with these women that I get to talk to. I actually love editing my show because I barely edit anything. I get to go through and listen to these conversations I've had and remember how amazing they were and look for the nuggets of gold because I choose to do the parts that really light me up. So I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about the whole thing because I'm actually probably going to talk more about this on my episode that comes out on Friday on my little mini-sode. But I wanted you to know that it's starting. It's here. I'm doing this thing. I'm going to start teaching podcasting, and it's just going to be one-on-one. I'm going to hold your hand the whole time. Every time it looks overwhelming, I'm going to be here to break it down and show you how easy it gets to be. I'm going to help you through every single part of it. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you've ever thought about starting a podcast, schedule a call with me. The link's in the show notes, and let's talk about it. I would love to help you make this a reality and make it super fun and super easy. So hop on a call with me. I'd love to talk with you about it. So this episode this week is amazing because, again, my favorite part of my week is talking to these amazing women, and one of them is the powerhouse Audra Bartlett. She's just gonna knock your socks off. She's so freaking cool. So in this episode, we talk about doing what you really actually love with your life, creative problem solving, which she has done over and over and over and over again. We get so many fabulous examples of her doing that in her life. And then how to create energetic boundaries so that we can really step into true authenticity. So Audra Bartlett is a multi-passionate, multi-business entrepreneur that is the mom to a Pisces kid and a pitbull mixed dog. She coaches other visionaries and teaches them to realize their own resourcefulness, to be creative, innovative, and when they do, they see that what they want is already in front of them. As a child, she cultivated the art of creative problem solving. It started with wild ideas of buying a monkey, a William Wegman dog to dress up, and owning a store in the mall at age 10. This thirst for finding solutions got her as an adult to start a bakery with no money, a 1-year-old on her hip, and a tiny apartment stove. And by the way, we get to hear that story. And then she reverse engineered buying a house for $327 at the closing, which I've heard that story and it's amazing. And she doesn't share it in this episode because I could have talked to her for absolutely forever and we just didn't have time for that story, but you have to go check her out and hear that story. And then she built a 6-figure real estate business by renting her house out on the weekends. So 6 businesses and a whole lot of no matter what moments later, she knows that we can all do this. She teaches you how to realize that you don't have hurdles, you have infinite possibilities in her wild visionary coaching program, her mastermind, and her community. She is truly magnificent. This episode's amazing, and I'm so excited for you to hear from her. Welcome to the Seeking Sunshine podcast, Audra Bartlett. Well, hi, Audra. I'm so excited to have you today on the Seeking Sunshine podcast.
Hi, I'm very excited to be here.
Well, thank you for coming. So let's just dive in. I am so enamored with you, and I just love to watch everything that you're doing on all your social platforms. You are so amazing. You're doing so much. And so tell us about what you're doing. Tell us about what you're passionate about.
Sure, yeah. Oh, thank you. And I appreciate that. I love a fan of, all the things I put out there because like a lot of us, we put the things out there with the deep desire to help people, to, add value, to like inspire. And it's really beautiful to have that reflection back. And what so I would say if I could summarize it kind of in a little story, what really got me curious was for as long as I can remember, in most of my adult life, in my teen years, I was always curious about this gap that I noticed for people. And that was when I would ask somebody what they do, they would tell me, and most of the time I would notice, and at the time, younger, I didn't know what energy was or reading energy was, but I would see people essentially like their shoulders would kind of close in around drop down. You would see their energy go down. They would just start talking about, well, I work this job as customer service, and like they sometimes would not be looking at you. It was like, and they may not have had this conscious awareness around it, but I would be observing this. I would see people like diminish, like they would just close off to the conversation about what they do. And I would then be curious and be like, oh, well, why, do you enjoy what you do? And they would then present me with this whole list of reasons that were essentially them convincing themselves, trying to convince me that what they're doing makes sense, right? Like, oh, like I work at this place because my boss is pretty nice, and I have pretty good hours, and I do get health benefits, and some of my coworkers annoy me, but like it was always this like list of reasons why they were justifying what they were doing. And so I would then follow up with like, well, if you could do anything, what would you do? Like, what would you? And I remember even when I was little, like a memory just came back where I was at a restaurant, and I remember I must have been maybe 10 years old. I remember asking the waitress, I was like, hey, so do you want to be doing this work? Like, is this what you want to do with your life? And so it's been something I've been curious about for a long time. And when you ask somebody what they really want to do, their energy shifts every time. Every time they like open up, they're standing straighter. You can see they're like beaming. They're looking at you. They're talking louder. They're getting excited. It's like they're expressing more. They're emoting. They're like, I want to do this thing, and I would love to do that, and I'd love to help people in this way, and this is what I would really like to do. And then I'll be like, well, why aren't you doing that? And then they give me their list, right? This list of like, here's all the reasons why I can't do that. And so I want to solve that gap for people, is essentially at the core of it. I want to help more people stop doing work that they don't like and do work that they do like, right? And I like live and breathe this. Like I will, and I want to say it was shortly after I had my son. I remember it distinctly. He's almost 10 now. And I had always been curious, exploring different things I could do in the world, but I made this really distinct decision. And it was probably almost 10 years ago, because I don't think he was very old at the time. I remember where I was living, and I woke up one New Year's Day and I said, I'm no longer going to do things in my life that I'm not passionate about. I'm no longer going to do that. Like it was just, and I'm getting chills, like it was this very clear decision. I was really into like those little like note cards at the time. And I remember writing on it, I still have it somewhere, like, I will live fully authentic. I will do things that I am passionate about. Like, this is how I'm going to live my life. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I just woke up and I was like, this is what I need to do from now on. Like, I will not do things that I don't want to do anymore. Right. And it was just this declaration. And I'd already been doing a lot of things that I enjoyed, but it was like, I'm going to cut out all of the fat. I'm not doing that anymore. And it was just in that like 30 seconds of decision that shifted even more the trajectory of what I was doing. And so that's essentially the pain point, is how do we solve for getting people from that place to a place where they're fully alive, where they're fully lit up, they're doing things that are like, boom, like this is, I want to get up in the morning. And I remember at one point when I was working 70 hours a week, right? I was like burning myself to the ground. I had been doing something, and we'll get into this in a little bit, that I was passionate about, but should have never monetized. And there's a difference, right? I was no longer enjoying it because I should have never monetized it. And I would wake up and I was like, there's got to be a way to get out of here, because I remember waking up in the morning and thinking, I'm not enjoying this anymore. I'm not looking forward to getting up.
You're not lit up about it anymore.
I'm not lit up about it anymore.
Like, people
right?
can't see me because I mean it's probably audio, and I'll probably share the video of this too, but I'm like jumping up and down with everything you're saying, because this is all about do what lights you up. And it's like, when people aren't doing the thing that lights them up, it like slowly kills us. It's like, we are here in this life to do the things that we're passionate about, because we all have these gifts. We have this fire in our souls to share it with the world. It's like, that's where your energy comes from. And when you smother it slowly in your day job, because you're just not giving it, like, that's like this slow, awful death. And it's the saddest thing.
Yeah.
ever.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And the story I'm talking about with 70-hour work week and not being happy and monetizing something that I should have probably never monetized, that was after this declaration. It's the recognition that like what we're going to do, what we're going to try, what we're going to play around with, what we're going to engage with, that we're thinking like, I know I'm passionate about this. I know I'm lit up by this. Like, let me see if I can turn it into this, or let me see if I can make it into this, or let me try this road or this lane or this angle of this. And sometimes we're going to go down that path and not be lit up by it anymore, or recognize that like, that wasn't the path. That doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it like, you have to, at that point, be brave enough to redirect. That's what life is about. We try something, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. We then redirect. And
you have to know yourself well enough to feel when you are under pressure, when it's starting to not feel lit up anymore and exciting, and it's starting to feel heavy and gross. And when you can start to notice that feeling in yourself, to go, wait a minute, this isn't right anymore. I need to shift. I need to change something, because then it's not fun anymore. And this is your life, and you get to choose what it looks like. So why would you choose the heaviness and not the fun, exciting thing? And the thing is that when you choose the fun and the excitement and the passion and the fire, you show up better for everyone around you. It's actually the best thing for everyone else in your life.
And that's, I think this paradigm is shifting around work. I think it's shifting around what we do. I think the younger generation is like not wanting to engage as much with work that doesn't excite them or that feels too heavy, but there's still this very kind of archaic paradigm around it. We give ourselves permission in a lot of areas to shift, to to be like, well, that date didn't go well, I'm not going to see that person again, or we've been dating for a few months and they've kind of crossed a boundary, and we're now all great with that. I know I have stayed in relationships longer than I should have on many occasions, right? But there seems to be more of a permission, and especially with like divorces are like on the rise. Like women are leaving guys left and right because 90% of divorces are initiated by women. But like we're giving people so much permission to just like shift relationships or places they live, or like you stop liking the coffee shop you've been going to for 3 years because they got a new owner and you decide to go to a different one, and like all of it's totally fine. You've been
But not
dancing,
your job.
but not your job. No, but you need to be practical. You need to be reasonable.
Stable. You better
need
have
to
that
be
stability.
stable. And it's like this illusion of stability, and it is an illusion. We then stay stuck in that. We're just saying, well, I need to keep doing this for another year or 2 years or 3 years, or all of our precious life, spending the majority of our time doing things we don't actually like to do. And I'm grateful to the point of like, my son has seen me in so many transitions. He's seen me own my bakery. He's seen me get into real estate. He's been in more houses than some realtors have probably ever been in, right? He pandemic real estate agent with me. Like he was with me showing vacant houses over FaceTime, right? So he's seen this. He lives in the investment property I bought. He's been with me in the Airbnbs. He's done it all, right? He's seen me coach.
And that flexibility is so important, to be able to cultivate that and be like, I can be happy, I can survive, and find that stability within myself and not need it from outside external sources.
Well, because that's where the stability always comes from. It always comes from the belief about something. But he's now seen this perspective, and his dad works a job that he doesn't like, he never has liked, right? And so he gets both sides of it. And we had a conversation recently in which he first off was like, I know I'm doing something right, because he said to me, you know, all my friends, they seem to want to be adults. They seem to want to go fast and become adults. He's like, I don't want to do that. I want to be a kid as long as I'm a kid. He's like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I was like, okay, yes to that, right? That he was like, I want to stay a kid because being a kid's so great. Like, I don't have to pay bills. I don't have to worry about these things. I don't have to work. He goes, and because so many people, they work jobs that they don't like. And I was like, well, do you know why people do that? And he was like, no, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I was like, right. And I was like, well, I go, you know, they think they need to, because they think they need to get the paycheck and do the things exactly how they're supposed to do it, and the health benefits. And he's like, but it still doesn't make any sense to me. And I said, do you think mommy likes what she does? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And I said, so there is a way to do it where you're working when you're done being a kid, because he's in no hurry, but like to do it and to make money and to enjoy it, and to know that like there is another option. There is always another option, right? Yes. And that's part of when I'm on this mission to help people realize they can get over that. And I do that by helping people connect with their resourcefulness and their creativity and their ability to be innovative, and it's, you know, me taking somebody that's like, the only thing I know is that I don't like where I'm at right now. I don't like this job. I'm not happy with this or the other thing, or the way that my business has been running is not sustainable for me. Like I can't continue to grow from this place. It's become a burden, right? And there's these different ways. There's sometimes you have to release and let it go. And sometimes you have to shift around the way you're looking at it, shift that perspective to find those resources to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And that is opening your energy up to all the helpers, to all the people, to all all that's right in front of you that you can't see because you're thinking that you can't do it, or there's only one or two ways of doing it.
Yes, 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 yes. There's always another way. I just heard this quote the other day, and I can't remember the exact wording, but it was like, when you think that there are no more ways, you're wrong. There's always another way. There's always another option. Like, just, dig deep and find that creativity, because there's always another option.
Yeah. And that at the core is like what I have been doing since I was a little kid. Like I have cultivated this way of just constantly going into the world, and it's not foolproof, right? Like occasionally I get lost in my own thoughts, just like all of us do. But like and I think this is the thing, like we have to make that initial decision. We have to decide whether something is for us or not for us anymore. Right. And so that may be the decision that the space or place that we're in right now, the job or relationship or whatever it is, isn't for us anymore. And that's the first point of decision. And then the second point of decision, or if you've already decided that, right, you already know that you got to leave that, like what is for you then? And that gets to be really combed through and decided. It gets to be examined, because if you're not doing the work around this transition, you end up recreating the same dynamic in the next thing you do.
Whatever you don't change, you're choosing.
And so it's like some people are trying to solve, and I just did a little video on this yesterday. They're trying to solve like they think the problem is like, I don't like this thing, or like, I don't know how to talk to my clients, or I don't know how to, like, there's this problem, but like the problem is so much more than that. The problem is they don't know where they're directing. They don't know how they're creating a different lifestyle. They don't know what they really want. They don't even know how much money they want to make. They're like, there's all these other things that they don't know. And because you haven't done the work to examine those things and really start to figure out what you, not your parents, not your friends, not society want, then you grab onto something else that's not for you again. And that transition, that internal search, is the part of building up those internal resources, then to find the way you can connect with the external resources, the people, the places, the things, the money, the talent, all of that to come in on the other end.
Yes. This is amazing. So tell us about how you've gotten to this place. Tell us about your bakery and doing real estate and coaching, because I know that you're an incredible coach, and clearly you are, and how all of these things that you've done have worked with having a son, and how you've worked with doing both, because that can be such a difficult dynamic.
Yeah, when you ask this question, the thing that comes up for me is, I've always said there's two types of women, and neither right or wrong, but there's the type of woman that wants to have a child because they need to feel completed by having a child. And there's the type of woman that doesn't need a child to feel like they're a woman. And you can be either and become the other, right? But often when people get into having a child, they're often starting from a point of feeling whole or not whole. And there gets to be work done around, all of it. But I was the person that came in, and I never wanted a kid for a long time. For most of my 20s, I didn't want to have a kid. And I did the work around why I didn't want one and whether I really wanted to have a kid. And I went into having a child with intention, with recognition that I wasn't more of a woman by having one. I loved my birthing experience. I did an at-home birth, unmedicated, with a midwife and a doula on the side of my bed in my bedroom, right? I felt all of it, and it was a very kind of raw and and visceral and transformative experience for me. But I never felt like I was complete by having a kid. And so I think that I always just thought of him as this other really cool, unique human being that gets to just explore the world in his own way. And I have, other than helping him understand the world and become a good human and keep him safe, that I wasn't there to be the one that told him how he had to do it. Right? I didn't never went into this with this idea of like, you have to be in this religion, or you have to be in this way or this space. And I'm getting to where this pulls in, right? But like,
Yeah.
but because of that, I didn't intend to live my life around having a child. He
Okay.
was part of my life, and he was an important part. And so when I knew that I needed to continue to be the example all the time of what was possible, and that my role as a mother was to be living as fully as possible, so he knew what it was like to do that. I needed him to understand what the world was like through my example. And that started when he was 7 months old and I left his father, because that relationship was toxic. It was damaging for both of us. It was not a good environment. And I had to make that decision, like, do I stay for longer? Do I wait until he's a couple of years old when it's a little easier, right? Because it's not easy leaving with a 7-month-old. I will say that, like, it was not easy. But I also knew I did not want my son to have a memory of that. I didn't want him to remember us together. I didn't want him to remember the dynamic in the household anymore. I knew he needed to see me happy.
That's amazing. Which, like, just I knew he needed to see me happy. Like, how many moms do not know that? And instead of giving that example to their kids of them being happy, they give the example of them being bitter and sad all the time because they're just giving and giving and giving and giving and giving way too much.
Or tolerating.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't have to be bad to leave. It can just be not what you don't want anymore. You cannot want the job anymore. You cannot want the relationship anymore. You cannot want to live there anymore. And that's enough. I don't want to. That's enough. No is a full sentence, right? Like, because I want to do something different. You don't have to justify it to anybody. And
the example of joy it's just so important. It's just so important for us to learn that we can be happy and that we get to be happy in our lives.
Life is not about tolerating. There's things that we have to tolerate, like taking the trash out and paying taxes, like those things, like for the most part, like, but there also gets to be the recognition. This is one of the things that I teach my clients is everything, like we're talking about what you're choosing. But there gets to be this point of power where we recognize that everything we are doing, we are choosing. And we have to like our reasons behind it. So you may be like, I don't really like taking the trash out. That may be true. It may be annoying. You may be tolerating having to take the trash out, but you want to take the trash out because you don't want to have a stinky home and you don't want to have rodents by your house. And that reason you really like.
Yeah.
If you don't like the reasons for doing things, then that gets to be the point where you recognize, like, there needs to be a change because I don't actually like the reasons. And one of the things I've been really deeply exploring lately is the concept of your reasons are not my reality. And what I mean by that, and this works really great with looking at relationships, but looking at work or job or what your boss is saying or the place that you're in, or I work a lot with entrepreneurs. So like even when we're presented with logical reasons, right? We like to be like, oh, well, that makes sense. So I should continue to tolerate that. Or that makes sense. So there's like this person or thing or client or whatever is presenting logical reasons, but that doesn't always have to be your reality. You can say, what you're saying makes a lot of sense for you, right? It's like when the people come in and give you the like, you should really stay because XYZ. You should really keep doing this because it makes sense for your family and it makes sense for you, and how are you going to do this, and da, da, da. And like those get to all be true. It's not dismissing somebody's logical reasons, but that doesn't need to be your reality.
It's official. Podcast Like a Mother is here. This is my podcast coaching program where I lead you one-to-one through the entire process of building your own podcast. I will guide you every single step of the way as you figure out what topic you want to talk about, what lights you up, and how to do the entire process beginning to end. I'm going to show you every single thing that I know, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to show you how to make podcasting fun and easy and sustainable. If you want to schedule a breakthrough call with me to see if this is the right next step for you, check out the link in the show notes.
The truth is that you can find evidence for whatever you want.
Anything. Mm-hmm.
You can find evidence that the whole world is against you, or you can find evidence that the whole world is for you. It just depends on what you're looking for evidence for. So if you're looking for evidence to quit your job and why that's the greatest thing in the whole world, you can find evidence for it. If you're looking for evidence of why you should stay and why that makes logical sense, you can find that too. You can find evidence for both cases.
And that's when it comes down to, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want? I had a mentor for a year that like, that was one of the first things. I had a Post-it note. Do you wanna, right? Do you want to? Do you want to? Do you want to keep doing that? And if the answer is no, that you get to look at that. Do you want to keep hanging out with that friend? If the real answer in you is like, I don't really actually like them very much. Every time I talk with them, they're bringing me drama, but I feel bad if I ever have to tell them. If you don't really want to, then you have to do the uncomfortable work around detaching from it. But then that frees up space and energy and time for all the other things that you actually do want to be spending your life energy on.
Well, and if you don't like the words like, do I want to, like, you can feel it. You can feel, you know, in your soul, you can feel the energy of it. You can feel, you know, does it drag you down? And if it's dragging you down, like, it's affecting your life and it's affecting the way that you're showing up in the world to other people. Like, there's good reasons to get rid of the things in your life that are dragging you down. Like, we can just let it pass on through. We don't need to keep that. We don't need to cling to it.
Yeah, and the clinging is the part that makes it painful.
Yeah.
So we're clinging to things that are no longer for us. And you're right, it is a visceral sensation. Like, if you were to just sit quietly with yourself and be like, okay, body, like, do a body scan and be like, is this a yes or a no? That answer comes, that answer presents to you. And then once you know that answer, then you have to sit with yourself and be like, well, why am I not choosing something different? Why am I staying? Why am I still in this place? Why am I not starting the business or doing the work or the passion project that I really, really, really want to do? Like, what is it in me that is so scared?
Yes. What am I really afraid of is such a powerful question. And like, to give yourself the gift of freedom from the things that you feel like you have to do, but turns out you don't, is so liberating. And like, to like, because I've had that feeling of just like, oh my gosh, I don't, there's something I thought I had to do, and it was like, I don't have to. I can just not. And like, you just breathe deeper than you've, been like allowed yourself to breathe in months. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what's this feeling? It's so incredible. And like allowing yourself to have that is so amazing.
Yeah. Yes, it gives you that freedom. And people are always surprised, right? I'll tell clients, like, once you make that decision, once you have that conversation, you're going to have so much more energy, and you don't realize until you get through that space and you release the thing that you're like, literally it's almost automatic with them. Like I work with people, like my private clients, on Voxer, which is like a walkie-talkie app where they can like message me and I can hear them in real time most of the time and respond. And like they'll do the thing and they'll get in there and they'll be like, oh my God, I finally did it, I told them. Well, and it's like almost just from the conversation, they're like infused with life energy again, right? It's like boom,
Yes.
and they're
Like,
back. And then
this-
after that point, after they've released that heavy weight, it's like what they're doing and creating, like all those things that like they were like, oh, I'm like holding on to this so much, I don't know how to do it, I can't do it. It's like all of a sudden, like it super speeds them after that point.
Yeah. You just don't realize how much you are letting all this baggage weigh you down. And when you let it go, and it's all up to you, it's your own choice to let it go. Like, you have the power to let it go and give yourself the freedom. Like, it's on you. You get to choose freedom or captivity. Like, that's on you. And so when you're feeling that heaviness and that weight and that burden and like you literally can feel your muscles are tight and you're like overwhelmed, and it's like you get to choose to get rid of that.
Yeah.
You have the power to do that in your life.
Yeah.
It's
and
amazing.
Yeah, and to the point, like where we're talking about this lane of being a mother and figuring it out, right? I just, because I kind of went into this as like he's my sidekick that I make sure I, direct to be happy, healthy, and a well-adjusted adult, and I want him to experience life with me. I just didn't see it. I just integrated him into my life, right? He would be there in the kitchen with me while I had my bakery. He was in a stroller pushed into the kitchen while I was napping. He was, like in the car, hanging out when I would go in to do a showing, or he was in the house with me, or, he was just like with me a lot of times. I didn't think of it as like, oh, this is a barrier, or, with clients that I knew, I wouldn't bring him to meet strangers. I was keeping him safe still, but like with clients that I knew, like I didn't think to myself, oh, they're going to think I'm so unprofessional by bringing my kid, I have to make this big block around it. I had my energy in that to be like, this doesn't mean anything about me. This means that I'm here to do my job and I'm showing up with my kid, and that's just what you're getting.
And I'm still just as good at my job. In fact, I'm better at my job because I can own this part of me and still rock it here.
Like I had clients I had clients get him a closing gift, right? Like it's just, I just didn't see it as a barrier. I was just like, yep, hey, I hope you don't mind, but I brought my kid with me. Like, I just didn't make I didn't make it into a thing, and they didn't make it into a thing.
Which is amazing. Which is so amazing. And I feel like COVID taught us a lot about how to just do that when we saw like big name people like trying to do Zoom meetings with their kids, interrupting like, hey mom, come wipe my butt, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, guess what? Lots of people have kids, and it's just being a mom is part of a lot of our lives. And like, let's stop being embarrassed about what motherhood actually looks like, because we're all in this together. All of us feel a lot of times like we don't really know what we're doing, and we're all just doing it messy. And like, let's stop being ashamed of it. Like, we're here, we're doing it, and that's all there is to it. Like, I was listening to this amazing podcast and she was giving a presentation and her kid interrupted and she wasn't like, oh, sorry. She was like, hey, son, how are you doing today? And just like that, and then just kept on going with her presentation. And it was like, boom, like we don't need to be apologetic. And that's so amazing. Like, yes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like it's for so long, I think there's been this like disparity of like, oh, like the working mom, the guilt around it, the shame that it's not appropriate, this, that,
Yes.
like,
Well,
and I'm just not here for it. I call myself a renegade mom. I never have been fully prepared. I never have all my shit together. Like I forget what I'm supposed to bring to my kids' school. Like I'm just not, I don't remember all of the things. And sometimes that's the reality of running multiple businesses and being a single mom
yep.
and showing up. And I don't make it mean anything about me. I've shown up to school when school was closed for a holiday and I didn't realize it. And I tried to bring them in, but the school was dark and I realized and I just pivoted, right? Like I have forgotten to sign the permission slip and had to like, I don't shame myself for it. I say, oh, I was busy. Cool. You mean to come in and do it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I made that mistake. That's awesome. I'm going to just turn around and drive home and cancel a client or move them around. And like, that's it.
We're just gonna
and
make it work.
and like that is like in essence like what I do with my kid is the same thing I've done with businesses, right? When I started my bakery, there was no logical reason for me to start this bakery. None. There's none, because I was working, I was a pastry chef, I was waiting tables, my son was like a year old. I was still like healing from the relationship. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any time. I didn't have any resources. Like I took my last $1,000 out of a 401k from an old job to put on a down payment on a new apartment because we were being kicked out of our apartment. They were not renewing our lease. And so it was me and another mom and our 3 children all together that we had to move. And this is the point to which it was proposed to me to bake for a new cafe in town. So I come home one day, there's a woman sitting with my roommate and she's like, she's the manager of this new cafe. I told her, you bake, do you want to bake for them? And that was it. I could have been like, no, I got a lot going on. I'm tired. I don't have any money. I could have given them all of those reasons. But I just said yes. I was like, sure, I can figure it out. Great. I'll bake some things for you. And
Sometimes
so
the magic is in saying yes.
mhm.
There's so much magic in just being open to possibilities and saying yes and then figuring it out later.
Yeah, and that gets to be the point of decision, right? In this, I decided, yes, this is for me. This is the point of decision. And everything after that point of decision changes the energy, shifts the universe. When you decide to do it, instead of taking all this time, maybe I figure it like you just say, yeah, I'm going to make this happen. Shift happens. And then it opens up a path that you can't see yet, but you have to trust is there.
Yeah.
And so I'm saying yes. And then I had to figure it all out. The only thing I could figure out was I needed a month before I could start baking for them because I needed to move houses, right? So
And moving's the worst. So
yeah, then I needed to move houses. I didn't know how I was gonna do all of this. So I said, I would love to bake for you. They're opening in a couple of weeks. I couldn't start for a month. Would that be okay? Yeah, that's fine. No problem. Instead of me saying, I'm going to force myself to do it in the first week you're open. Hey, can you get by with your grandma or some mom was baking for them, until I can start in 2 weeks? Then I had to figure out how to do this, right? I didn't have all these recipes in mass quantity to make for a cafe. I didn't have ways to get them to the cafe. I didn't have a mixer yet in the house. I had a tiny apartment stove. I found the mixer on Craigslist and met some stranger at a Starbucks to make sure it worked, right? And I found some sheet trays and started looking at recipes and started just putting it together. That was it. Me, an apartment stove, and a Craigslist mixer with 5 people in a tiny apartment. And I just,
Bootstrapping it. Yeah.
yeah,
Just like
and I just
building
started
it.
figuring it out. And then it just kept going from there and going from there. I needed a bigger space. So I asked this nonprofit owner that I knew had a kitchen in there, and I needed to get a permit. And I did that before I started by doing a home processor permit, which I didn't even know was a thing. Like, it was just like, I kept asking questions. I kept trying to figure it out over and over and over and over again.
And it's great because it's like, okay, yes. And then it's like, all right, let me just know what the next step is. I don't have to know every single step all at once. I just need to know what the next step is. And then I'll tackle that step. And then I'll be ready to figure out whatever the next step after that is. You don't have to be overwhelmed with every single thing at once. And we wouldn't be able to handle it anyway. We just have to know what the next piece of the puzzle is and then do that. And I love that because it just plays out perfectly. And if we can just trust that it will lead exactly where we're supposed to be, like, it's just right there. It's just laid out for us if we can just trust.
Yeah, and that goes back, and I'm going to drive this home because I really, really, really believe, like, I believe in the energy that we have behind, like, having our own back, the
Yeah.
energy behind making a decision, even if it's, you don't know how to do it, even if you like recognize that it seems impossible at the time. It's your acknowledging what you want and claiming it and trusting that all the other things are going to figure itself out. So, like, the only point to which you may know right now is that you want to leave your job, or that you want to start a business, or that you want to leave the relationship, or that, like, maybe you don't even know entirely, but you know that you're not happy with what's been happening and you need to have some way, shape, or form shift to happen. And, like, you need to start claiming that and being honest with yourself.
Yes. Well, and that's a decision, just in itself, to decide and declare it to yourself. I'm not happy, because for so long we're like, I'm okay. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm fine. What? And we don't even want to admit it to ourselves. And so, like, just staking that claim of, like, you know what? I'm not happy here, and deciding I want to make a change. That doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily leave your relationship or leave your job, but, like, even changing yourself can change everything.
Yeah, it was like me back with that January 1, New Year's Day. Like, I was like putting my stake in the ground. I was saying, I'm only going to do things that I'm passionate about.
Yes.
I'm going to find a way to live authentically. And I didn't, and if we don't have the time to go through what that all took, right? Like, not me, very, like, wild-eyed and big, what is it, wild, big-eyed and bushy-tailed or whatever. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just gonna be authentic and just be passionate, and I'm living my life. But, like, be careful what you wish for sometimes, because the universe was like, okay, right?
Yeah, you have to decide that every day. It's a brand new decision, even multiple times a day. It's like, okay, I'm going to test you on that now. Now you have to redecide it and be recommitted constantly.
But it's like, it's also like what you go through. Like, just because things, like, I make this decision, I put that stake in the ground, but not everything that followed it was easy. Matter of fact, there was a lot of really hard things. There was a lot of building things that weren't right. There was a lot of misalignment. There was a lot of navigating. There was a lot of crying. There was some blood, sweat, and there's some blood and sweat there too, right? But there was, like, it was like constantly moving back to that, like, okay, I committed to this and I'm still figuring it out, because I didn't know what that meant.
Yep. And yeah, that's so. Do any of us? We learn what it means as we live it, as we embody it day by day, moment by moment.
Well, and I think that's part of it. Like, I love personal development. I've been in studying personal development for the last easily 15 years. I say it started when I had my matrix moment of reading Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. It shifted my awareness and I delve into it. But I think there's a lot of these platitudes or sayings or quotes or things that are said in the space that conceptually you can only get it on a surface level until you claim it. And be authentic is one of those. Like authentic gets thrown around there, like confetti at a kid's birthday party, right? It's just like, be authentic, be your most authentic self, live your
And you
best
can't
life,
really
right?
know what that is until you dig so deep and like really like open up to your real raw self. And it's so painful to
Yeah.
do that.
It's like the conversation I have around self-care. Self-care is way more than bubble baths or chocolates or any of those things. Like and being authentic is the same thing. Like what it looks like is you feeling unburdened, you having that sense of freedom, you finding your path to like do what you want and claim what you want and leave spaces and places that are not for you anymore. But what it looks like on the other end is setting boundaries and pissing people off and leaving things that people don't want you to leave and making people mad sometimes, and sometimes you crying because it's so hard. And it's this commitment to living the fullness of a human life,
integrity
and knowing that you're strong enough to feel those feelings, you're strong enough to get through all of those things. And you can be committed in two ways, just like I'm talking about two different mothers, right? You can be committed to yourself fully and living that path no matter how hard it gets, or you can be committed to living your life for someone or something else. Those are the two paths. There's not anything else. Like there's just not. You're either living for yourself or you're living for something else. And if you know any way, shape, or form, you are going to continue to live, as long as you're given on this earth, day in and day out, then why would you want to spend that time? Why would you want to spend your energy pursuing something that's not for you? Because in my opinion, people say that time is your most valuable resource, but I really think a layer deeper is that energy is your most valuable resource.
Well, and they're intertwined.
They're intertwined, right? But it's not just the passing of time or how you're passing that time. It's the energy to which you're living. It's your life energy. It's your open-hearted nature. It's you meditating and connecting to the energy, to the oneness, to the energy of people around you, right? We can pass time in different ways. We could even be passing time in things that we are passionate about, but if our energy is not in it, it still falls flat.
Yeah, and time tends to contract and expand based on your energy levels. I mean, we all have felt that. Like when you're really passionate about something, like you can just feel the expansiveness of it, and you can just tell that like it's easier to get things done, and your mind expands, and it's incredible. And so before we wrap up, I really want to hear about your podcast.
Yeah, so my podcast and my whole community platform, like everything I'm building, is called the Wild Visionary. And this ties in back to kind of my origin story of my first business, which if anybody does watch this on video, I'm showing I have a tattoo of partially of my wildflower, which was the name of my bakery, tattooed on my arm. And I got it tattooed on my arm because I knew it was the actions that I took towards that, to opening that bakery, to claiming my space, was the thing that saved me. I saved myself through doing that. because it was the beginning of this whole other path that I went on of helping figure out a way to bridge that gap for people, to get more people out there. Like Wildflower was a name that came to my mom in her dreams. We had tried to figure a name out, and she woke up the next morning and she said, it's got to be called Wildflower because you're a little bit wild and you bake with flour, and this is the only thing that makes sense. And so I get to take that into being a wild visionary, because everyone I know is a little bit of wild and a little witchy and a little woo and a little spiritual, and maybe not like is a bit of an outlier, right? But a visionary, you becoming the visionary, you not just having an idea, but you envisioning it and you believe it and you become it. And a visionary is somebody that is the person that can see into that future, can see something that maybe other people can't see. And knowing that like what you can see for yourself in your life when you're claiming it, everyone around you might not be able to see it. But you have to be the one to be the forward thinker. You have to be the one to say, I have this vision for my life. I have this vision for the world, right? And I am going to now claim it and become it. And so this is my community. This is my podcast. This is who I talk to. This is how I want to, change the world. And that really came into me in clarity of vision recently, very powerfully, that my work is to empower others to change the world, that my changing the world is changing the leaders, is extracting the genius from people, is putting people out in that space. And so I'm like the force multiplier, and I want to like affect the change as much as possible. So that is my work. That is my work. And in the new year, I'm starting something called the Wild Visionary Arena, which is a mastermind for 10 people who want to be in the arena, daring greatly, together, affecting change in that way.
I love it. I love it. So I'm going to make sure that you send me all your links so we can put them all in the show notes. And I'm just so excited for this incredible work you're doing. I'm so excited for everyone to go listen to your podcast. Is it out? It's out, right?
Yep. She's there.
Oh, when does it launch?
It's up right now.
Oh,
and
it is up.
The first episode will be released, I believe, next week. So by the
Oh,
time
okay. So when is it? Okay, so it's out. So
by
it's
the
out.
time, it'll be fully out with lots of episodes by the time this is released.
Wonderful. So everyone needs to go listen to the Wild Visionary podcast. It's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited for it. And you are just such a light, and I love seeing your vision. It's amazing. And thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you
It's been
so much.
absolutely a joy. Have an incredible day.
You too.
Oh my goodness, Audra is the coolest person. I think I want to be Audra when I grow up. Audra is Audra's on fire. I mean, you can just hear it. She's just freaking on fire. So here are my very favorite takeaways from Audra. Number 1, if you could do anything, what would you do? When you ask somebody what they really want to do, their energy shifts every time. Every time they open up, they're standing straighter. You can see that they're beaming. They're looking at you. They're talking louder. They're getting excited. I've also noticed that, and it's so cool. Number 2, this is your life, and you get to choose what it looks like. So why would you choose the heaviness and not the fun, exciting thing? And the thing is, when you choose the fun and the excitement and the passion and the fire, you show up better for everyone around you. It's actually the best thing for everyone in your life. Number 3, there is always another option. There is always another option. There is always another option. People can connect to their resourcefulness and their creativity and their ability to be innovative. Sometimes you have to release it and let it go, and sometimes you have to shift to find those resources to get where you want to go. Number 4, sometimes the magic is in saying yes. There is so much magic in being open to the possibilities and saying yes and then figuring it out later. Number 5, I decided yes, this is for me. This is the point of decision. Everything after that point of decision changes the energy, shifts the universe. When you decide to do it, shift happens. And that it opens up a path that you can't see yet, but you have to trust is there. Number 6, self-care is way more than bubble baths or chocolates, and being authentic is the same thing. What it looks like is you feeling unburdened, you having that sense of freedom, you finding your path to do what you want and claim what you want and leaving spaces and places that are not for you anymore. And number 7, people say that time is your most valuable resource, but I really think a layer deeper that energy is your most valuable resource. Oh my gosh, there's so much gold in this episode. I hope that you found so much amazingness and inspiration and wisdom here. And if you loved it as much as I did, I hope that you will share it with somebody. You could text it to somebody who you're like, this person really needs to hear this, or you could even share it on social media. And if you really love the show, I would really appreciate it if you left a review. It would mean a lot to me because it helps other people to find this show, and it helps to increase like the whole rating thing and just boost us up in the whole, I don't know, the podcast algorithm things. So Audra, you can find all of her links in the show notes. You can, let me see, find her at audrabartlett.com. Her Instagram is Audra Bartlett Coaching, TikTok, Coach with Audra, and Facebook, she's Audra Bartlett. You can also find her podcast, The Wild Visionary, on every major platform. Make sure you check out my website. I am redoing it, so it's getting better and better and better. And if you're interested in that free breakthrough call to decide if you are interested in podcasting, if it's even right for you, if you like aren't sure what topic you would even talk about, and you're like, I don't know, what could I even talk on forever? I can help you with that. Schedule your breakthrough call with me and we'll talk about it, and it will be awesome. And I swear to you, like, no pressure. I can only take like 5 people. So like, no worries. If this is not for you, we'll figure that out. I would love to talk to you because I think it would be fun and I like talking to people. So the link for that like thing to schedule is also in show notes. And then if you want to subscribe to A Snippet of Sunshine, which is where you get a cute quote, those ones that I just read, actually, you get them. I make them into these really cute little graphics, and you can get one of those in your inbox every single day. So since it is so very close to Thanksgiving, and I released a Christmas album last year, it is officially that time of year, and I'm going to start sharing Christmas songs with you guys from my Christmas album last year. And I'm going to be honest with you, I've kind of been reluctant to get into this Christmassy spirit, but hopefully, if you are like me, the Christmas music will help. So I'm going to leave you with a Christmas song this time. Have an amazing day. Have a gorgeous Thanksgiving. And just remember to be grateful because the world is such a beautiful place. And there's just so many people who love you because you're amazing. So much love. Bye, guys.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior was born.